This is a video about Santa and a few different things dealing with Santa. One that kind of gets into NASA stuff at the end, but I'll start talking about just the religious aspect because just some Christians that I hang out with, they I was glad that one of them was outspokenly against Santa and mentions all the things that I would expect people to pick up on, like, oh, they ascribe the supernatural powers to Santa and then get children to believe in him even though it's a lie, and how they so often you see people try to say, like, oh, you believe in God, that's like believing in Santa. So that type of programming, I think, is very easy, surface level for most people to pick up on, where they've created this godlike lie and tell children about it, and then later in life people associate that same sort of thing with believing in God, as if believing in somebody who leaves presents under a tree or whatever is a similar idea to the creator of everything. So, yeah, the one thing I found interesting was how this person was very outspokenly against Santa, and kind of even in almost a braggy way, like, you won't see a Santa at my house. Just because me personally, yeah, I believe all those things about Santa, but my wife still has Santa crap, and I'm not gonna. Whenever stuff like this comes up, I take it as an opportunity. Like, I'll be able to tell my children that, yeah, Santa's a lie, and look at how the whole world agrees to lie about this thing, and there's movies made about lying about this thing to try to convince. So that's why I don't try to eradicate it completely. But to finish the thought, I just think it's interesting that this person I know is very against Santa, but then Christmas trees are okay, even though the book of Jeremiah explicitly talks about Christmas trees. And again, I'm not being judgy in these scenarios, because I have a Christmas tree. I got a Christmas tree for free this year. Whatever. They're so dang expensive these days, even in Oregon. It's crazy. I just thought it was strange that this person, Santa was a clear, no, this is so bad that you won't even see a Santa in my house, but then Christmas trees are okay. And the whole Christmas thing, even in general, like, I understand that it's important to celebrate the birth of Jesus, because that is amazing that God sent himself in the flesh. And so the human birth of Jesus through a woman is important, but I don't think that it happened in the winter. And December 25th, where are people pulling this number out of? The date December 25th does appear in the Bible a single time. I didn't pick it because you can just go Google search it if you want to. Look up, try to find December 25th in the Bible. It'll be a different month, right? Because it's like the Jewish months. I don't know. But nothing in the Bible should make us certain that Jesus was born around winter solstice time. So it's clear the pagan influences, I guess, is just what I'm saying, is clear. And yeah, I think that Santa probably has a pagan influence. We'll get to that later. I'm just going to go through the slides now. I'm not going to read about, you could pause and read anything here. I think that, in my personal opinion, I think that Catholicism still today, very much paganism. The saints were worshipped like the lowercase g gods used to be worshipped. And so I think that Catholicism was just a way to control people, to control Christianity, and to get people to be idolatrous in the process. So I think it's pretty obvious that a lot of Catholicism venerates saints in a way that is idolatrous, like people praying to them. I don't think we're supposed to pray to dead people. Jesus is still alive. When you pray to Jesus, Jesus is alive at the right hand of God. It's not like praying to some dead person. That, in my opinion, that's getting into ancestor worship, idolatry. So no surprise that the Santa origins that were at least given fall under this, the idolatry of saints. Jesus is the Messiah. We're not supposed to put any human being on a pedestal. And his death is in December. That's kind of interesting. So, this is a cool old world photo. Looking really fancy, the building on the left. Quirky. That's a cool balloon, though. Doing the triad claw in this picture, right there. Okay, so... oh, this, just to get into the pagan thing. I think it's clear that this sort of gift-giving thing around the winter solstice has origins that are beyond just the Catholic thing, and so this is just a pagan tradition that carried over, in my opinion. And when Christianity was first arriving on the scene, when people were first hearing the gospel, a lot of those people were still pagans at the time and knew all these pagan traditions, so they just kept doing them and gave them a new coding. They just tried to play it off as being Christian, but just kept doing these pagan traditions. So, but I think most people know about that stuff by now, that Saturnalia is really what's being celebrated around this time, and I think that there's probably some inversion going on here. You know how Easter is kind of in the spring, and my guess would just be that was when Jesus was born. Possibly, maybe Easter and Christmas are flipped. They like to flip things. They like to invert things. Just that would be a guess, because the Bible tells us that there were shepherds out in the fields when Jesus was born. I do think that that's a pretty good indication. I agree with that argument that it probably wasn't the dead of winter when Jesus was born. And I know that, they like to flip things, invert things. So if they inverted Jesus's death and Jesus's death and resurrection and Jesus's birth on earth, I think that would make sense for them to flip those. But ultimately, I'm not a stickler for the law or anything like that. I think it's all about the Spirit. I think it's good to have an appointed time to think about these things, to think about the birth of Jesus, to think about the death of Jesus. Maybe the dates that we have today are wrong. But anyways, so just to finish my thought there, I think it's interesting that there's some people out there that are very against Santa, but then, like, crickets on the Christmas tree thing, and crickets on the, hey, why December 25th? What's up with that? So it's always just curious when it seems like certain things are gatekept, whereas others you're allowed to talk about them. So I'd be interested to hear, if you go to a church or something like that, do they talk about Santa? Do they say, yeah, you shouldn't do the Santa thing? Because I do think that Santa is very, very bad. It's a lie. So to get on to the second part of this, hilarious, because Reddit never fails to, make you chuckle. They were talking about this on one of the Reddit posts, and you know how on Reddit too, it's a thing on Reddit where when something gets to the front page on Reddit, you start seeing meta posts about it later. People will start replying to something that made it onto the front page. Sometimes it'll even be like an inside joke. You won't even understand a post unless you understood that a similar post happened earlier. So this was a post, some BS Oxford 411 whatever. They love to just throw out these very specific, if I throw out a specific thing, that makes me super smart. 3.68 years. He must know what he's doing. He's accurate to the 100th decimal point. It's just a bunch of BS. But what I found so funny, I don't have the post here, but, it is what it is. You'll just have to take my word for it or go see it in the wild. When this post made it to the front of Reddit, not long after they started talking about Santa and how Santa is a giant gaslighting operation, how many hundreds of thousands of people know about Santa, and yet the deception continues. And they try to play it off as, oh, this is silly. nothing is sacred to these people. They want you to take nothing seriously. So they want you to think that you're a stick in the mud, you're a boring, mean, yeah, stick in the mud kind of person for not gaslighting children into believing mystical creatures plant presence inside your house. It's insane that, but it just shows you that this concept right here is BS. This is BS. That it's impossible. You know, only if 411,000 people, which first of all, that's obviously an exaggerated number. Do you think that 411,000 people are in the tight-knit NASA circle that are doing the things? That number is way too exaggerated. But this super smart scientist is trying to claim that you can't keep a conspiracy alive with that many people for more than 3 years. How long has Santa been going on? And they're still gaslighting people. And so all it takes is societal pressure and, you know, being a part of a group. You're the part of the group of people who know about Santa, and so you're supposed to keep that a secret and gaslight all the children to get a part of that fun. Why would that not be the same thing about NASA? If there were a group of people who knew that it was a bunch of BS, but the fun is in gaslighting people and in watching them believe. That's the fun for these people, is watching people believe. They love to see the sparkle in the eye when people are pontificating about bullshit outer space stuff. Like, looking back now, I can realize certain people in my life that probably knew that this stuff was fake just by the way that they spoke, or when, like, I have one very specific memory that sticks with me, just where I was, you know, at a party, inebriated, being stupid, and I was like geeking out about outer space stuff, and just the way that one of my friends was looking at me, it's like he was studying me in a weird way. And it's like he felt sad for me that I believed that bullshit, honestly. So yeah, to finish off this thought, conspiracy is possible. We see it with Santa. There's a giant gaslighting operation, and all it takes is cooperation among the people who know the secret. And you know, think of all the shouting that people do make about Santa being fake. Like, obviously that gets out there. You know, there's mentions of Santa not being real. They show it without the beard and stuff, and yet the gaslighting operation continues. And there's enough of the programming that it's just the same thing with the NASA. They know that 10% of the people out there can not follow the rules, but if they get enough of the people to go along with it, then that's all that they're going for. So there's an expression, you can't fool all the people all the time, but you can fool most people most of the time, or something like that. And that's why they'll show an image. So here they actually carefully picked this image of the flag blowing because that's one of the most surface level debunking the NASA stuff, is the whole flag blowing in the wind thing. I mean, the whole thing is so absurd. It really is not believable at all. It is Santa, because what gives Santa his power is belief, the belief in Santa. And that's exactly the same thing with the NASA. It's campy. The NASA stuff, it's really not believable, not even from a scientific standpoint. But what gives it power is belief. Getting everybody in a position of power to go along with it. You are not allowed to have to be on the world stage and not go along with the emperor has no clothes situation that is NASA. But most of them know. A lot of them know. A lot of people know. But they've just, you know, they've been illuminated. Think of how adults who know Santa is fake are on a higher intellectual level than the gullible children. Well, they think of themselves on that next level beyond. Well, they don't believe in the fairy tale outer space stuff, and but they go along with the lies. Similar to how people on the know that Santa is fake, but they gaslight the lower level. You have tons of people on they know that outer space is fake, but they love gaslighting the lower level. Very rarely do you get people who know Santa's fake and they love shouting it from the rooftops that Santa's fake. How many people do you know like that? That it's like that they love to tell people Santa's fake. That doesn't exist. Hardly doesn't exist. In the same way, it hardly exists that somebody that knows that NASA's fake shouts from the rooftops that it's fake. Same way, same thing. So, as seen on Reddit, if NASA stuff about conspiracy theories and things like this make it to the front page, wait a couple hours. You'll see stuff talking about Santa, because they love to show that, to debunk themselves. But if you're too stupid to put two and two together, then there you go. You can't figure it out. Well, which one is true? Is it nearly impossible to keep a conspiracy secret, or can everybody keep Santa secret to children? Clearly conspiracy is possible on a grand scale. And that's it for this video. God bless everyone.